start with the lighting of the lamp. So light is a pretty universal symbol of truth, knowledge, and understanding. It acts as a guide, keeping us from stumbling the dark. So lighting of Kuthuvalakku is an important ceremony. We would request the dignitaries to come forward for lighting of the lamp.
नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा पद्मपत्रविशालाक्षी पद्मकेसरवर्णिनी नित्यं पद्मालयां देवी सा मां पातु सरस्वती सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा पद्मपत्रविशालाक्षी पद्मकेसरवर्णिनी नित्यं पद्मालयां देवी सा मां पातु सरस्वती.
In the plenary session, the first topic is initiative of the Government of Karnataka towards National Education Policy 2020. After which, we will discuss about reforms in curriculum pedagogy and assessment in the light of NEP 2020. This is the second topic for the day. The Indian ecosystem can progress if there is an innovation at every level. And that is what our third plenary session, we will discuss about aligning Indian education system with the global standards as proposed by National Education Policy 2020. Needless to mention that our chief guest, Honorable Minister of Education, Government of Karnataka, the Chairman AICTE, and other eminent speakers spared time for us in spite of their busy schedule. Itself shows how keen they are to contribute towards upliftment of Indian education. Without taking much of time, I would request Dr. Prashant Balla, Treasurer of EPSI and President Manavarachana Education Institution, Faridabad, to deliver the welcome address.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to extend a very warm welcome on behalf of EPSI, and we are really very grateful to all the people present here who have accepted our invitation on this national conference seminar on implementation of NEP 2020, Challenges and Opportunities for Educational Institutions here in Bengaluru. It's an opportune time to renew our scholarly contacts and discuss contemporary problems of mutual interest with delegates from esteemed institutions of national prestige. Commensurating with that, I would particularly like to welcome our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, Chairman AICTE. Thank you, sir, for being here. We are waiting for our Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Government of Karnataka, to join us, Dr. Ashwath, Narayan. And we have with us Dr. G. Viswanathan, the President of EPSI, and the person who's really responsible for taking EPSI to really new dimensions. Thank you, sir, for being here. Mr. M.R. Jayaram, who's the Senior Vice President of EPSI, and it's his efforts and it's his all initiatives that today we are here in Bengaluru. Professor Mangesh, our Vice President, Dr. Chaturvedi, our alternate President EPSI, who has been giving us great direction in all our events, whatever we have been doing in the past, and P.K. Gupta ji, our past President of our EPSI. It's really gratifying that the agenda of seminar that Palnivel was also mentioning really covers a wide range of interesting topics related to some criticalities and challenges in implementation of NEP 2020 by educational institutions. We all have been in the field of education for past, and we know the challenges and the complexities that education as a sector gives us. And nothing better than the academicians themselves or the people who have really built institutions over years who come together at this forum, and they are sharing their own experiences with all of us and guiding us with their rich expertise. And that's what I feel would be a major differentiator in the really what we want in terms of the national education policy implementation plan to really get translated on ground. And this pandemic was a big challenge, and after this era, there is going to be a massive shift in the educational trends, as we all are aware, and we are really seized of the challenges. Some of them really, if you talk about the education sector particularly, many of the sectors face the challenges. We heard a lot about how various sectors came up to that challenge and really performed well, whether it was manufacturing, whether it was textile. And I think education also, it was a time which really brought in a sea change in how the deliveries were happening in the past and how the academic fraternity really responded to the change and really came forward and helped the community at large, student at large, and in general also contributing for many such issues where government or the whole environment needed that support. So this whole conference today, which is around the NEP 2020 implementation, we are also looking at gaining insights on how the initiatives of government of Karnataka have really driven the implementation of NEP 2020 far ahead than maybe many other states. And that's one focus that we have for our discussions today. And we have been also going to talk about the reforms in curriculum, the pedagogy and assessment in the light of 2020, which would be really very helpful for us in our strategic planning and the implementation aspects related to that. We will be deliberating on aligning the Indian education system with global standards. I think that's again one big area that even our Honorable Prime Minister has been talking about, and lots of emphasis has been given on internationalization, even talks about how we have to bring in the best practices, or looking at maybe international universities eventually coming to India or setting up their own campuses. There have been many such thought processes that have been talked about, and the whole aim is eventually to really bring India on that pedestal where it is looked upon as a knowledge hub, as a center where everybody looks up for education. And we have seen in the past a new phenomenon of EdTech. We are also evolving specifically in Indian ecosystem, and many such unicorns evolving. So I think that is again a new phenomenon that is really maybe coming in as a threat also to many of our existing educational institutions, but it is also coming in as a support, as a boon with their technological inputs and with their other aspects, other support system, which is very driven, oriented towards the genuine needs of the industry. I think that is again one perspective that has come in, which is really helpful to all of us in terms of our educational endeavors. So it's really a great honor for me to address this August gathering, and I once again thank all the dignitaries who came in, specifically Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, who's been really patronizing us and who's been there in all EPSI endeavors, and all of you who have come in from far away places to be here physically present, and thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would request Dr. H. Chaturvedi, alternate president of EPSI, director of Birla Institute of Management Technology, and also my mentor, to address the audience about the theme of the conference and give a brief introduction about EPSI also. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Palanivel. Respected Dr. Anil D. Sahasrabudhe ji, Chairman AICTE, and a very important mentor for EPSI during last couple of years. He has been always with us. Whenever we have taken some important theme for national development in education, our President, Dr. G. Viswanathan, under whose leadership EPSI is working tirelessly for improving the education sector and asking to the government for a dignified place for education in the national priorities. Dr. M. R. Jayaram, Senior Vice President EPSI, and he is our local guardian, one of the local guardians in southern part of the country, and the way this conference has been organized, there were so many doubts whether we shall be able to sail through or not, but his wisdom has worked very well and his support is very important. Thank you, sir. Dr. Mangesh Karatji, who is heading our Western chapter from Pune, and Dr. Prashant Bhalla, Treasurer EPSI, and our colleague Tirumati S. Manarvadi, Vice President, Southern Region, EPSI, and we are waiting for the Minister, and we are hopeful that he will join very soon. As you know that since 2005, EPSI has been representing the education sector in our country, and 2005 onwards, we have been taking one major theme for the education, particularly higher education, that was the autonomy of higher education. Because autonomy was not given to universities and colleges. There were many issues which were affecting adversely the autonomy. And working for last 10-15 years, early 10-15 years, EPSI could persuade the policymakers by meeting the different committees which were entrusted by the government to draft the new education policy. We could find a horizon, future horizon for higher education where autonomy is well respected. And ultimate goal of the new education policy is that within the next 15 years, every higher education institution should be governed by autonomous boards and least interference of the regulatory bodies or government departments will be required. Now, national education policy is in its infancy. This is second year. Last July 29, Prime Minister launched Academic Bank of Credit. Some early steps have been taken. ABC is one of them. Then outcome-based learning has been propagated under the national education policy. Open distance learning is being highlighted and being proposed as a way to increase the gross enrollment ratio from current 27% to 50% by 2030. And Indian languages, which have been neglected in our higher education, mostly it is being brought on the agenda, and I appreciate the initiative of EPSI under the leadership of Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe that the Indian languages, more than 7 Indian languages have been allowed to conduct, the institutions have been allowed to conduct engineering programs in 7 regional languages. And skill development is also on the top agenda, that in higher education, skill development will be emphasized and courses related to skill development will be introduced. There are 6 major opportunities I am taking from the theme paper of this conference, which you will find in the beginning of this souvenir. There are 4 sections, and the second section is about opportunities for higher education institutions. You are well aware about certain important provisions of national education policy. One of the most important is consolidation of higher education by institutional restructuring. We have 45,000 colleges, but many 20,000 colleges located in remote areas, and they are not having infrastructure even comparable to a good school, secondary school. And we are conducting higher education in this way, without teachers, without resources, without infrastructure. So, and number of students is also a major factor for the viability of higher education institution. So proposition has been made that the ideal number should be minimum 3,000, and for a time frame has been given that in course of time, within 15 years, affiliated colleges will be phased out. So major opportunity for higher education institution is how they can consolidate themselves, how can they make clusters, how can they become research-oriented or teaching-oriented institutions. And second opportunity is that internationalization will be expedited. And government has given a clear, the national education policy has given a clear indication that top 100 institutions of the country will be allowed to go outside and set up their campuses, and top 100 universities of the world will be invited to set up their campuses in India with certain privileges. Of course, the national framework of national education policy will also be a part of their responsibility. Faculty, energizing faculty and motivated, capable faculty, developing them as motivated, energized, capable faculty will be another opportunity, because government has to conduct the faculty development programs, the service conditions of faculty, and better infrastructure will definitely make them energized and motivated. Then quality research is likely to be given impetus by National Research Foundation. We are waiting for its launching, and we will also have this opportunity of the transformation of the regulatory system. Instead of prominent two regulatory bodies, UGC and AICTE and 1 dozen other regulatory bodies, there will be a structure, a new structure, which is yet to be launched, I think, within this year or next year. And lastly, the governance and leadership will be emphasized by the policymakers, by institutions, that we need good leaders in higher education. And we need better governance in our higher education system. It cannot be run like a sole proprietorship business, or it cannot be run like a profit motive company, because education in our country has a significance. It's a nation building exercise. It's not for profit as per the law of the country. So governance and leadership will be big opportunities for higher education. Of course, there are challenges, and we are going to discuss challenges in 3 sessions. And those challenges, I think, I compliment the state of Karnataka. And the state of Karnataka has some unique feature in their education system. Education is supported by the community, not only by the government, by the community. All communities are having their universities and colleges. Education is supported by religious mutts. Lot of funds they are investing, they have invested, and they have raised high standard of institutions. So this is a state where education, art and culture flourished during last so many centuries. This is the state of poet Kuvempu. This is the state of Sivaram Karanth. This is the state of famous writers. This is the state of politicians who have laid down a path for democratic governance in our country, like Ramkrishna Hegde and S.R. Bommai and Devraj Ars. I have read about them. I respect them for leading this state. So challenges are there. Funding is difficult because of the COVID. State governments and central governments are hard-pressed. Modernizing infrastructure will not be easy, but without modernizing higher education infrastructure, we cannot expect the full implementation of NEP. We need to improve teaching standards. We have to make our teachers comparable to the best teachers of the world. We have to digitalize. I think challenge of digitalization is being faced by all sectors in the world, and in India particularly, those companies which have digitalized themselves, they are surging ahead, and the traditional manufacturing industries which are slow in adopting the digitalization, they are not growing very fastly. So improving teaching standard, digitalization of higher education infrastructure, and I would like to raise this point also, one of the challenges that some states have taken the lead along with the Karnataka. The states, we have Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh. These states have announced their plans to implement NEP in a phased manner, and some states have just constituted committees or commissions like Tamil Nadu, Delhi, Goa, Assam, West Bengal, Kerala, UP, Meghalaya, Rajasthan. So I think if there is no national roadmap is given by the central government, that all actions of state governments should synchronize. Of course, those who will take initiative, like Karnataka has prepared a blueprint for roadmap for the higher education, national education policy implementation. I conclude here, and I wish that this one-day conference of EPSI, which is second face-to-face conference, last year we have organized one at Chennai also. It's a very important landmark in history of EPSI. It will decide the destiny of our higher education system. I look forward to hear Dr. Anil and Honorable Minister, Mr. Ashwath Narayan CN. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the introduction of about today's conference. Now I request Dr. Jayaram ji, Senior Vice President of EPSI and Chancellor of MS Ramaiah University of Applied Sciences, Bengaluru, to share his views about the present education ecosystem of India. Sir, please.
Surrendering myself to the divine, the Hon'ble Dr. Ashwath Narayan, the Honorable Minister of Higher Education in Government of Karnataka, who is yet to come, and we are awaiting his presence. I welcome him. Chairman of the AICTE, Dr. Anil, Dattatraya Subhade, who is here also. I welcome him. The President of the EPSI, Mr. Viswanathan ji, the Vice President, Mangesh ji, Mr. Prashant Bala, the distinguished guests on the dais and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. The higher education sector is witnessing a major transformation. National Education Policy 2020 sets an appropriate context to discuss and debate the future of higher education in this country. With the local and the global outlook, in the last few years, the higher education sector has also seen a major interest and reforms in accreditation, rating, ranking framework, and the need for such assessments. The NEP 2020 is an opportunity for all of us to reflect on much needed reforms in higher education, making higher education a meaningful innovation, relevant and creative in a major aspiration in the NEP 2020. We have opportunity to reflect on enabling a research ecosystem, multidisciplinary and pre-perspective, enhance internationalization, provide professional development for faculty members, and focus on Indian knowledge systems. Each of the higher education institutions have their unique strength and capability to implement the recommendations of the NEP 2020 for the benefit of the concerned stakeholders. While we look forward to these reforms in higher education, we need to deliberate the certain challenges, especially for the private higher education institutions. The NEP 2020 to overhaul the regulatory system based on the principle of right but tight. Such a system, no doubt, will help the institution to enable innovation and change and reward institutions who are performing well. Similarly, we have a major reforms in the National Institutional Ranking Framework, NAC, and the World Ranking, the NRF, the NAC, the World Ranking are emerging as the new benchmarks of quality performance of higher education. However, the private higher education institutions and the public-funded institutions are exposed to some regulatory systems. The performance of metrics with difference of financial support as such, the private institutions are self-financing institutions which limited or no grants coming from the government as such. In order to provide the level playing field between the private and the public, we need to deliberate the reforms. In ranking and accelerated methods, along with making higher education regulatory ecosystem conducive to reforms and changes. I'm sure the members of the EPSI will seek the inputs from the distinguished guests and experts during the conference to prepare their roadmap to address such reforms and implications of institutions. In this regard, I would say the Karnataka has taken the lead in implementing the NEP 2020. We are no doubt have been leaders in higher education, especially in the higher private education system in this country. People are looking towards us to see how the conducive way in which we live, both private and the public institutions, for the welfare of the larger public. I would like to remind all the members on the dais, especially the chairman and so many vice chancellors are here, that in Karnataka, I think it was the first time in 30 years back, the private institutions gave to the government 40% of the seats to be subsidized to the poorer students, and making every people or boys eligible to come to higher education in private institutions. And this has worked so well. And even the Supreme Court at one point of time, because it's the only consensual agreement we have been having with the government and the private institutions. Nowhere in the country we have such a system. We are not following the Supreme Court judgment, or we are not following any of the Government of India regulations. But we have come out with our own system of regulating, wherein the students get the best of privileges and they are not deprived in any of the best of institutions. Having said this, I think we are very, very responsible. I think all the institutions in our country are becoming more and more responsible. We would like the Government of India, the governments, to be more proactive. Give a level playing field for us. You can't compare the government treasury giving to a college and self-financing institution. How can you compare them? It is just not possible. And you can't, can you say that, you see, the per capita, the cost of a student is equal, has to be equal if you want to be in NRF ranking. Is it ever possible? Such a things, I think, you have to be more cautious. Higher education in private sector is going to play a very dominant role. Unless the government gives us a helping hand, I think we will be in a different stage, and I don't think we'll be able to play our role which the NEP expects us to do. Here I would like to suggest, please bifurcate the private institutions which are getting into NRF and the public institutions. Let there be different yardsticks. Let there be ranking for each one of them differently. There's a level playing field. This is what I would like to suggest. I don't know how many of you would agree to this, but I would like to suggest that don't make one institution to rank and rating of these institutions equally. So this is my humble suggestion. Please don't mistake me, because it is our survival. If you don't allow us giving a helping hand in this moment of time, first time in the country after the independence, the NEP has come into, the national education policy has come into this country. If any failure, I don't think the country can see what you expect the country to grow into 5 trillion, the economy. I don't think it is just a dream, far away. So if you want to make this thing a reality, I think health education is a very important for the growth of this country. And this will lead to wealth. And these are three mantras. If you want us to reach the, our 5 trillion economy, health, education, and wealth. If these two are all right, wealth will automatically come in. You need not bother about it. Don't go after it. You make this NEP most successful by making all of us to come together, be brothers, and help each other in making things happen. So this is, as an educationist in the last 50 years, this is my personal views that I'm giving. So I would like the people who are sitting on that seats to understand our feelings of how we would be a players in this great game of development of this great country. So with these few words, sir, thank you very much. All of you have come to Karnataka. Welcome here. This is a land of culture, land of knowledge, land of great wealth and industrialization. I think the first industrialization took place in Karnataka, and Viswanathan was the model who gave the mode for bringing up this state. So thank you very much, sir. Please welcome all of you, participate, and make this NEP a most successful plan for the sake of this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, your words are always blessings for us. Before I am calling for that Professor P.K. Gupta, I want to say a few words how the EPSI has come. And in fact, when we started, Dr. Chaturvedi sir and Susma Balyaman from that PJ group of institution, Mr. P.K. Gupta ji also there. So we started. We have given some of the small kind of presentations and everything. And Dr. Chaturvedi has given the full inspiration and got many members across India. And P.K. Gupta ji has told, no, don't give it in the small way. Come up in a big way. And today we are having 100 promoters members. And we are having around 8,000 members. Once Dr. G. Viswanathan has become the president, he asked me how we are going to enlarge it in a bigger manner. So you have to get more members. And I contacted for that Dr. Jayaram ji. And one word Dr. Viswanathan has spoken to him. Once Dr. Jayaram ji has involved in it, and we are reached for around 8,000 members, all the medical sectors and everyone is our members of EPSI. Dr. Vijay Raghavan sir is there, and so many promoters members are there. Then we were working in that one of that very rented office, and Dr. Prashant Balla has instrumental. We bought our own office. It is now the very big office in Delhi. And apart from this, now Dr. Malari madam is here. She has given that full of the 3,000 square feet office in southern region. Now the southern region office is also working. Then, needless to mention, that western part, Shivajirao Kadam sir, P.D. Patil sir, and Mangesh Karat sir is here, and he is our vice president. We are all doing all the works, and EPSI is growing like anything. Now I would request Mr. P.K. Gupta ji, immediate past president of EPSI and Chancellor of Sharda University, Greater Noida, to share his views about national education policy. Please.
Very good morning to everyone. And special thanks to our Sahasrabudhe sir, he's the chairman of AICTE. I admired him really like a great academician. He's a wonderful soul and highly dedicated person for the academics. And Dr. Viswanathan ji, being a chairman, the EPSI, under his leadership, EPSI has grown in multifolds. My mandate was to talk about, how the EPSI started. It was somewhere 2005. I met one Mr. Chelani. He came with the idea, but he said there's a lot of chambers of commerce about industries and all, but nobody is focusing about the education. So we 5 people, me, Dr. Mr. Chelani, Dr. Chaturvedi, Dr. R.P. Singh, Professor S.K. Khanna, former chairman of AICTE, Susma Badlia, started with a small office. And then the vision was that we are in isolation, and I think nobody is voicing about the higher education systems. And that is the vision was there, and from there, from 2005 to 2021, 16 years down the line, I think now we have very strong voice, but still we have go to miles away, because after the new education policy, there is a lot of, the pressure on the private institution, particularly when INAF ranking and NAC accreditations are there. And particularly, I personally believe that what Dr. Jayaram says, that India $5 trillion economy. If you see, compare with anywhere in the world, I think the investment in higher education, particularly in the research and development, is far less than any other country, which basically we wanted to achieve. So I personally believe, yesterday also we were talking about it, that we must, all of us should lobby about the Government of India to distribute these reasonably research funds to our institution, because this is became a mandate for NIRF as well as NAC. You cannot be in top 20 or top 100 institution, or even top 200 institution if you're not doing a sufficient research, sufficient patent filing, sufficient funding is required. And what I have understood, out of 100, 97% fund goes to the government institution, only 3 to 4% comes to the private institution. Whereas the contribution of the private education in terms of GDP is almost close to 40%, either medical college or engineering college or the professional institution. So we need to have the equal share about the funding, because this is where we can really grow. If you see the US or Canada or any other developed nations, the research is one major focus. And we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, we are talking about the institution of eminence. All these things are required research funding. We need to form a committee to guide, to mentor our faculty. We need to have experts who can, seed research methodology in the mind of our faculty. And I think the same faculty who is not finding a suitable job, they're doing a great job in US and Canada, or maybe in any other institution. So there is no dearth of talent in our country. There's no dearth of scientific minds in our country. It's a matter of, how we can enlighten their minds and can really allow them to do the research. And for that, we need the seed funding. There are small fundings are coming, because now we are going through the process of getting NAC accreditation, and then NIRF. So there's very feasible numbers are there for particular research. So what I personally believe, this new education policy has been in pending for long years. And at the Sharda University, with having education experience almost 25 years, we have been implementing various ideas, what is now incorporated as a legal document, as a binding for every institution to perform. So I think this is going to go a long way, but I personally believe, 25 years experience, that without proper research funding, we cannot become a great nation. And I think we need to consolidate our strength, try to use our political contacts, try to lobby with the Government of India that sufficient research funds to be allotted. They have allotted for the Manrega, they allotted a lot of funds for various organizations, but there was not sufficient funds available for research. And since the mandate is there at NIRF, because you cannot be a university without research. So there's sufficient, if we are charging the tuition fees, again there is a problem with the government, because they say you are charging too much fees. And students are not supposed to pay the research funding, because either it has to come from industries or should come from the government. So either way, the government have put, like 2% cess for the CSR funds. I think they can ask for something like this, 1% cess for the, so I'll cut down my short. Let me welcome to our minister. I think he is here, and I think he will take over the session from here. Thank you very much. We'll talk sometime later.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Mangesh Vice President of EPSI and Executive President of MIT ADT University, Pune, to share his views about NAP.
Good morning to one and all. Chief guest of today's program, Honorable Minister of the Karnataka, Ashwath Narayan ji, our keynote speaker, our mentor, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe ji, Chairman of the AICTE, our President, Dr. G. Viswanathan, Senior Vice President, Dr. Jayaram ji, Alternate President, Mr. Dr. H. Chaturvedi ji, our other Vice President, Madam Malavedi, she is from Coimbatore, Mr. Prashant Ballaji, our Treasurer, our past President, Mr. Gupta ji, all other dignitaries, Vice Chancellors, and the Education Trust Office bearers. I'm really delighted to be here on this morning to deliberate upon the national education policy challenges and opportunities. I think our Dr. Jayaraman ji has already talked about the issue. Our Prashant ji, Gupta ji, everyone has talked about the issue. The national education policy is declared by the government of India. And I know a number of you have come here to understand how best, in how best way we can implement the national education policy for the betterment of higher education at every university, at every institution. And with that hope, I think you have come here. I think a number of you might have read the national education policy. I just want to highlight how appropriate national education policy, which is now given by the government of India. Mr. Jayaramanji has rightly said, our Prime Minister has given the, he has the vision to develop our economy to 5 trillion economy. It is not only his vision, I think it is a vision of every one of us. Our children, they want, good life, they want their income to grow everywhere. This is the quest of every Indian. So the Prime Minister, and to fulfill that vision, I think there are certain parameters how we can develop that vision of a 5 trillion economy. And for that thing, I think education is a very important tool by which if we develop our young generation, then only I think we can boost our economy. That is a major important parameter. And this national education policy is, I think, really has covered all the aspects, right from, curriculum, creation of, institutions of eminence, world-class universities. World-class universities is a present trend, is a, present buzzword. It is not only the buzzword, it is a need of the hour, I can say. The world-class universities like Massachusetts is there, Oxford is there, Stanford is there. Some universities are constantly in that list. Our Indian universities are lagging in that list, but I'm very happy. Now few universities, the private universities as well as the government universities are coming up, they are catching up. I think this policy will really widen, this policy will really boost their, their momentum, their speed to achieve that. And it is not only those universities. I think every university, every higher education institution, they have to develop in that direction to fulfill the aspirations of every young Indian. It is a time. Now higher education is expanded in our country to the large extent. Now there is no dearth of engineering colleges. Now there is no dearth of management institutions. Now there is a requirement of the institution who can really fulfill the changing aspirations of the young Indian. And what is the aspiration of the young Indian? Not to go to America, but to create the unicorn, Indian unicorn in the country. Indian version of the Facebook, Indian version of the Google, Indian version of the Facebook. So that is the, aspiration of a young Indian, of a today's, youth. How we can do that is a challenge. And I think this policy has really opened up the gate to fulfill those aspirations. And how to implement this policy is a real, issue, is a real crux. If we go through, Facebook in last 20 years, in this policy has, made a great stress on the innovation and research. Why innovation and research? Because the economy of the world is driven by innovations. If we take the example of the company like Apple, they have collaborated technology with a liberal education. They have changed the, how to use the technology that they have, understood. They collaborated music with the technology. The Facebook has collaborated the human emotions with the technology. They have come up. So that is a liberal education. So this policy has really given us the chance to, collaborate with the different faculties. Interdisciplinary approach is accepted by this policy, and because of that, I think we can really design the curriculum in which we can give the way for the innovation. I think engineering education is changing. To boost innovation, I think we have to merge design education into engineering education. Design thinking has to be the part of a curriculum of every faculty. We should have the rapid prototype labs. We should have the 3D printing labs in our engineering curriculum. I think rather than giving the fixed structure education, we have to. The fine art students, they should collaborate with the engineering students, computer engineering students, mechanical engineering students. That will give the way to the new way of innovation. We can develop the toy industry. We can compete with China. So that is possible. Now I was reading one of the report, why everywhere computer engineering is in demand. As on today's, computer software sales is around $1 trillion as on today. Is around 75 lakh crore. In another 5 years, that sale is going to grow around $1.5 trillion. So that is almost 1.5 times. It covers all sorts of softwares, right from operating software, mobile app development software, all sorts of software. But that is going to require the huge number of the computer engineers that we are producing. I know every private university has come up with so many computer engineering branches, so much intake. But is that sufficient? Are we happy as a chancellors of the university? Are we happy with the producing the graduates who are working with a Cape Gemini company and all other multinational companies? We should really create the innovators out of that. And how we can create that innovators is the question to be asked by every institution owner, every chancellor, every vice chancellor. And how it is possible is a real challenge, how we can make it possible. In my opinion, we have to create, project design thinking has to be involved, not only for engineering, for all branches, to promote the innovation. We have to have the innovation departments into the university. We have to create that mechanism by which we can, this activity will be delivered in continuous mode. So we have to have the innovation department where, good ideas will be taken up into that innovation department out of the projects done by our students every year. And on those ideas you need to collaborate, bioengineering department, how to we collaborate with the computer engineering or with the mechanical engineering department. Right now in the present system, people do not have that mindset to collaborate that quickly with the different departments. There are, protocol comes, the HOD do not go to other HOD, the interpersonal, relations and issues come. So we have to create the innovation department. Those innovation departments will bring people of a like-minded, interest on that platform and that innovation department. Our past president has, he has talked about the government support. I will say, Guptaji, why we need support? We universities are, quite well-to-do. We should support the, innovation. We should support the research. We should grant 5 crore, 10 crore rupees for, this innovation, this funding. Then I think we have to go ahead. We have to compete with the global universities. So innovation department is a very important. As I said, the holistic education, liberal education has to be taught. Liberal education has to be merged with the regular professional education. We have to create the school of holistic education in which the foreign languages are to be taught to engineers, the creative art and the performing art, flavor of that creative art and performing art is to be given to all the branches, right from the architecture, engineering, design, everyone. So school of holistic development in every institution is a very important. That will, develop that every student to the fullest extent. Any good artist, any good writer can write a wonderful story for a picture. Harry Potter is a picture which has accumulated so much revenue in $1 billion. That literature is also one innovation. On that every aspect there is innovation. flavor of music, flavor of the filmmaking, the technologies can make a better film. So that, that collaboration has to be there. So we have to design the curriculums in that way. Mindset has to be changed. Our egos has to be kept aside. Otherwise, people do not have that mindset. Why I should, merge that music into my course. I think without that, I think we cannot really implement the national education policy in a true spirit. And we have to implement the national education policy in true spirit, because at a global level, in a globalization, you have to understand culture, history, languages. Without that, our Indian professionals cannot go abroad and they cannot win there, they cannot become the leader there. So this is the requirement, the must requirement of the today's professionals. So we have to understand, we also have to support the entrepreneurship. From the innovation, how our Indian students, our Indian youth can become entrepreneurs. So that has to be the quest. So we have to create the new generation universities, new generation institutions. We will support innovation. We will support the liberal education in all professions. We will develop the holistic education. Who will support the entrepreneurship at a large scale. So that has to be the quest. And we should not ask for the government. We have to go to the industries. The government can support by some policies. We have to collaborate with the industry. So that is the requirement, and that is the true spirit of this national education policy. There are challenges, but I think if we do not take the challenge, who will take the challenge for our own generation? Only we, the universities, private universities, government universities, private colleges, we have to take that challenge and we have to go ahead. Friends, I will not speak much. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. G. Viswanathan, President of EPSI, Founder and Chancellor of Vellore Institute of Technology, to share his views about the present scenario of education in India.
Our chief guest of today and the Honorable Minister for Education, Government of Karnataka, Dr. Ashwath Narayan, our guest of honor who is going to deliver keynote address, Chairman of AICTE, Dr. Sahasrabudhe, Dr. Prasant Balla, Treasurer, Dr. Chaturvedi, Alternate President, Dr. Jayaram, Vice President, Dr. Mangesh, Vice President of EPSI, Tirumati Malarvidi, Vice President of EPSI, our past President, Mr. P.K. Gupta, Chancellors, Vice Chancellors, and other educationists who are participating in this conference, good morning to you. It is very heartening to note that in spite of this pandemic, so many of you have heard from all over the country. I would like to thank all of you. And also I would like to thank the Honorable Minister who has just now arrived from Guwahati. In spite of his busy schedule, I am here. We are happy that he has made it to the conference. We thank on behalf of all of you. EPSI is very, very important organization. I don't know how many of our people know about us. We are functioning in about 20 states of India, which is not enough. We have to reach all the states and union territories, because education is very important, and creating awareness about education, particularly higher education, is also important. That's what EPSI would like to achieve. All of us know, in fact, Dr. Jayaram mentioned that any welfare state has to take care of two things, education and health. And that's why even immediately after independence, the first Prime Minister of India formed an education commission under Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, where eminent people like Zakir Hussain, A.L. Mudaliar were also members. I would like to quote how they viewed education, particularly government control on education. I would like to quote one para. Exclusive control of education by the state, they mean government, has been an important factor in facilitating the maintenance of totalitarian tyrannies. In such states, institutions of higher learning, controlled and managed by governmental agencies, act like the mercenaries, promote the political purposes of the state, make them acceptable to an increasing number of their population, and supply them with the weapons they need. We must resist, in the interest of our own democracy, the trend towards governmental domination of educational process. That's what Dr. Radhakrishnan Commission said immediately after independence. I would like to remind the governments, of course, the state government is present through the Education Minister, and the central government is represented by Dr. Sahasrabudhe. Even though he's not a minister, he knows all about education in Government of India. So I would like to request the governments to see that both in quantity as well as quality we have to go up in education. In quantity, the education policy has mentioned that at present the gross enrollment ratio is 26%, and by 2030 the government wants to take it to 50%, almost doubling. Now the total number of students studying in 1,000 universities and 54,000 colleges are about 3.7 crores. So it has to cross almost 7 crores or 8 crores. It means that more institutions have been started or more students have been admitted in the present institutions. Is it possible? Because at present in our country, education means affiliation, approval, permission, recognition. This is education. And very often it's not easy, it gets delayed. You know, delay breeds corruption. A corrupt education system can ruin a country, and especially the future of a country. So we have to be careful. Rajaji said, the license permit Raj should come to an end. That was long back. Now the government is trying to remove. I am happy that the new education policy talks about removing the affiliating system within 15 years. That's a long period, but anyway, a beginning has to be made, and I am happy that it has started implementation, where the state governments have to take the initiative. The center alone cannot do it. The state government has to implement, and that is where the importance of the state government in implementing, at least in implementation of the education policy. And to give importance to education and health, I would like to draw the attention of our guests and others today that for the last 60 to 70 years, it has been requested that 6% of the GDP should be spent on education. So far, we have not crossed 3 or 3.5%. In fact, India spends, there are 147 countries in the world who spend more than us for education. And the last budget, it has in fact reduced the allocation on education. I find it is from 39,000 crores to 99,000 crores. 99, to be exact, 99,311 was the previous year's budget. And this year it has been reduced by 6%, 93,223 crores. I am sorry that it has happened. Of course, the government has got many priorities, but I would like to request the Government of India and Honorable Prime Minister, if we want to grow economically, health and education must be given priority. It was pointed out many times here, I don't want to repeat. Only an educated, healthy citizens can bring up the country. And another important thing is, our Honorable Prime Minister talks about 5 trillion economy. No doubt the country is growing. Maybe it can grow faster. But does it reach all? No. Because the inequality in education is bringing about economic inequality. In the year 2000, there were only 9 billionaires in the country. In the last 20 years, now the billionaires number has gone to 140. It means that the wealth is not going to all, it is going to only a few people, 100 or 2,100 people, and it's only a few families who try to control the economic activity of the country. So that is why I am requesting the government to concentrate on education, increase both quality as well as quantity. To improve quality, we require more research. At present, we are spending less than 1% of the GDP on research, whereas many countries are spending ahead of us. So it is another area where we have to take care of it. In India, the private institutions are not given any priority, anything from the governmental agencies on research. At least on research, let there be a level playing field. If somebody does research in VIT or Ramaiah or Sharda, they are not getting anything from the government. Whereas they do in government institutions, they are paid 35,000 per month. I would like to request Government of India to see, at least in research activities where we have to come up, it should be treated equally, all the institutions, so that our country can also compete with the rest of the nations. Being education, we would very much like all the states to have EPSI. In fact, yesterday we have decided to open 3 regional offices in the country so that the activities of EPSI will increase. It's not only just protecting the institution, it is protecting education. In fact, I am trying to do something in my district. Probably it will be useful to you also. The gross enrollment ratio of our district is poor compared to the state average. So we are trying to go to students who are completing 10th and 12th. I have created a trust called Universal Higher Education Trust. Of course, it's a public trust. I am the chairman of the trust. We collect money and give it to poor students not to stop with the school. I want them to go to any degree or diploma. Of course, it is restricted to one district, Vellore district, 13 assembly segments. And now in the last 8 years, we have given 7,000 scholarship and 2/3 are girls. We are able to support the higher education without any governmental finance. If the government helps, all of them can have higher education. At present, the GER is 26%. In all the developed countries, it varies from 60% to 100%. We have to compete with them. And it all depends how the state governments and the central governments are going to spend. And if you are not giving anything, let them not take away from the institution. Yesterday I was mentioning in our meeting, managing committee meeting, that GST is payable to many of the activities of the schools, colleges, and universities. I would request the government, of course through the minister, to appeal to the central government not to levy GST on educational institutions so that amount can be used for the students. That's what many people requested here. And we have to take care of the poor people and the middle class so that there will be equality in education, which will lead to equality in economically also. And our country has to grow. Our per capita income as present is $2,600. The countries who are with us, they concentrated on education. South Korea has reached $30,000. Japan has reached $40,000. Why are we still behind? Even China has crossed $14,000. It is time now that we take care of education and health so that this country also can compete successfully with other countries. That's what EPSI wants, and I want you to strengthen EPSI in all parts of India. I am happy that the minister is here on our request, and also Dr. Sahasrabudhe, who is the sole representative of Government of India in this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your experience. And this has added a lot of experience learning opportunities. Thank you, sir. Sir, today we are having around 325 people are sitting here. So I would request the Honorable Chairman AICTE to deliver the keynote address.